Hi everyone, welcome back to another continuing education check-in. Today we're talking about how to date with intention. And then we're bringing back our end segment, how cooked are you? And we're going to test Sania on how well she understands guys and how they think.
Oh no.
And so in this week's episode, we're going to give you some different scenarios. And then you're going to tell us how you think a guy would react.
Okay.
And so you can look forward to all of that in today's episode. The first question that I want to ask is, what do we mean by dating with intention? You don't have to say my answer, but when you hear that, Sania, what are you thinking?
I think my answer, like a lot of our views on this podcast, like they're kind of aligned. I do agree that, like, in my opinion, dating with intention means dating towards a goal of marriage or towards a goal of, like, I'm picking a person or I'm looking for a person to be with for the rest of, like, my life.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that doesn't look like marriage for some people. Maybe that just means, like, long-term relationship, whatever it is for you. But, like, I guess that's not dating to just, like, find the next best thing and, like, constantly move around. It's, like, putting your time and effort into one person.
Yeah, for today's episode, I think we're talking specifically about working towards marriage and how to set yourself up well for that. And so maybe in the future, like, we can talk about dating for other things.
For fun.
But today will be about how to work towards marriage. And when you're thinking about this, are there things that we would recommend just right off the bat?
That people, like, try to look out for when they're dating with intention. I feel like a lot of dating with intention has to do with, like, of course, yourself being ready and, like, you wanting to date with intention, but also picking a person that is also ready.
Yeah.
I think I've definitely fallen in the trap of, like, I'm dating with intention, but the person in front of me has made it abundantly clear that maybe they're not looking for something serious, or they're not ready to settle down. Or, like, maybe they don't want kids in the future. Maybe they don't want a family. Like, you know, like, our long-term goals are just not aligning. And I've had on the Delulu glasses and, like, thought, like, I could change them. I can make it work. But that's, like, not. I would recommend to not do that.
Has it ever worked in your experience? Like, you wanting to work towards marriage and they
the other
weren't...
person doesn't?
Yeah. Have you ever convinced them?
I have not convinced them. I think there has been times where people are, like, not looking for something, like, exclusive, and, like, sure, they've been convinced to be exclusive or to have a girlfriend when they weren't initially ready to. But I don't think I've ever, I mean, no ring on my finger, I don't think I've ever convinced anyone to be ready for marriage if they weren't independently ready for marriage before they, like, came to me.
And, like, looking back at that, would you have told yourself to just stay away?
I think I would have told myself to, you know, pursue it if this is somebody I like, but, like, being aware that, like, hey, you're just dating for fun right now. You cannot consider, like, you can't keep telling yourself when you go to sleep, I'm dating with intention, I'm looking to get married, and you're taking these steps that are, like, not in that direction.
I see. So you would adjust your expectations.
Definitely.
Okay. And, okay, so how do you even know if someone wants the same thing that you want? A lot of times, like, when we're just getting to know someone, we're not talking about anything so serious.
Yeah. I feel like it gets sprinkled in. Like, how have you experienced, like, these conversations come up in, like, your daily life and in your dating? Because you've dated, like, you've had, like, a various range of, like, dating experiences. So it's like, have there been people that you've met that right off the bat are, like, I don't know, don't look like they're dating with intention?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of times it does come up in conversation, even asking, what are you looking for? When it comes to dating, what are you looking for in a guy?
Right.
And so those are things that you can ask that are pretty easy. And then based on how they are, their actions, you can tell a lot. So are they asking you meaningful questions? Like questions about why you do certain things, not just asking about the facts, like, what do you do for work, how old are you, what do you like to do for fun, but trying to understand why did you want to study what you studied, or why do you like to live where you live? And so those questions just go a little more deep, and usually that's when you can tell that someone is a little more serious about dating. And then you can like ask further down, or like, what are you looking to get out of this?
Okay.
Yeah. So I think those are some signs. And then I don't know if you agree with this, and I'm kind of curious, but do you think like certain people are just destined to like look for marriage? For example, like if I met a girl at church, can I just assume that she's dating with the intention of marriage? Or if I like am dating someone like from school, can I just assume that they're not ready for something serious because they want to settle down in their job and figure out where they want to live?
Not at all. I completely strongly disagree. Mostly
I don't know if I'm
like,
saying that for myself. I don't know. I'm kind of asking.
I don't think that is true. I think a lot of times, like, even if you're not dating with that intention, a lot of times you just end up, like, you meet someone in school, you really like them, and then it just so happens that you end up together.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think that just because, and also a lot of times you meet somebody at church and, like, maybe it doesn't work out. Or, like, maybe they were just looking to, like, be in a more relaxed relationship, not something so serious. So I don't think it has to do with the where of you meeting them, but just like completely to do with just their mindset. And like you pointed out a bunch of good questions that people can like try to ask and like see if those come up in conversation. I think another good thing, and hopefully this is not me being delulu, is like looking up just to like listening to what the other person is saying when they're explaining like their day-to-day life. If they're saying stuff like, oh, like I'm tired of partying, I'm tired of doing this, I'm like whatever, I want to like focus on my goals, I want to like build a career, I want to build a future. Like just certain signs to show you that individual themselves is like looking for something more serious.
Yeah. You know, I actually just thought of like maybe one of the best questions you could ask, and tell me if you agree. But what if I think you should ask, what was your longest relationship?
Okay.
And so if they haven't had a long relationship, or if they're not looking for something serious, like I think it will come up in their answer. But then also like even if you haven't had a long-term relationship but you are looking for something serious, it will come up in your answer, because you'll be like, I haven't dated like anyone super long-term, but I really want to.
Yeah.
Like they would try to defend themselves,
right,
to show what
they're
they
ready
want.
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or they'll say like, I dated this guy for 4 years, but right now I'm
taking a break.
I'm taking it easy.
Okay.
Not looking for anything.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's a very good question to ask.
So, and I think as like, we just will naturally try to justify whatever we're looking for.
Whatever we choose, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that you can do to figure it out. Okay. So in relationships, and this is like whether you're dating with intention or you're dating for fun, relationships like fall in this like huge spectrum.
Totally.
So you can be like super serious and like moving super fast, and like every date feels like a serious conversation.
Right.
And then the other side, the other extreme is like you guys just do a lot of stuff together, like watch movies, go get groceries, but then you never really talk about big picture stuff or what you really want together. And so I personally think both extremes are bad.
Okay.
Because like in one extreme, you're being too serious, you're not actually able to enjoy each other's company.
Totally.
Because it's just like, how many kids do you want? Like, when do you want kids?
Yeah.
And then the other side is like, you're having fun, but then you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Or like there's no
goal,
direction.
Yeah. Okay.
Or goal. Yeah.
Totally. I think like a good as a good rule of thumb, or like as a good thing to try to apply, is like you can have the fun dates, but you can like sprinkle in like a couple of little, and like it doesn't have to be like very planned out or like thorough, but it could just be like little things that come up. Like, you know, if you're at the park and you see lots of dogs, like you can easily ask your partner if they see themselves living in a house with a dog.
Yeah.
Like super simple things, like you can try to figure out, you know, does your partner say, oh, I'm planning to get this type of dog when I when I'm settling down? Or are they saying, what type of dog do you like? What type of dog should we get? Like, so even their answers, like you said, it's not even so much about the question. It's just about like how they're answering and like the details in their answer.
Yeah. I also think that it matters how you frame the question.
Totally.
So it can be like, how many kids do you want? Or it could be like, how do you think families with more than 5 kids can like fit in a car?
Oh, yeah.
Like you can bring it up in a fun way, and then you'll end up talking about what you want to know.
That's totally true.
And so that matters a lot. And then, like Sania said, there should be a balance, like a balance where you guys can sit down and have a check-in with each other and say, hey, how are you feeling about how things are going? Can I do anything better? Like, what are things that you've noticed so far? But then also just go on really fun dates and do cute things together. You'll never have to eat at a restaurant alone again if you don't want, and that's special. So enjoy the time that you get. And I think a lot of times in dating we kind of take it for granted because we're like, if you look too seriously at marriage, you're like I just want to settle down. I want that security.
You want to be done. Yeah.
But then in marriage, like, things get a lot more serious. You have to like figure out finances together, where you want to live, how to deal with the in-laws. But in dating, it's like this really great time where you don't have to deal with all of the serious stuff yet. And you can just, like, you have some time by yourself. You have a lot of time with that special person. You get to plan things that maybe you want to have done just for yourself. And explore new things together and make memories. That's awesome without a lot of extra pressure.
Without having too much pressure, how do you work towards a marriage? Like, because we were talking a lot about pressure, and I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves, and I've definitely been guilty of this more than once, of putting pressure on my partner about marriage. So like, how do you date with this intention and like want to work towards this marriage without getting rid of the fun and like without all the pressure?
So I think to start off, you need to know what your deal breakers are. Okay. And this might be hard if you guys haven't had a lot of dating experience and you're not totally sure what you're looking for or what to anticipate that comes in your relationship. But no matter where you're at, make a list of things that non-negotiables that you need in your partner. And as you're getting to know them, make sure that you know like what the answers to those are. But then also, like, when you think about the big areas of their life, family, work, what they do for fun, their goals for their life, make sure that you like understand those things as you go through your relationship. It's always the worst feeling at any point in a relationship when your partner shares something and you feel like it caught you off guard, like you never heard that before. And so by like checking in with yourself and saying, oh, do I know like what his relationship with his siblings is like? Or do I know like if he actually wants to live here and like 10 years down the line, or does he want to be closer to family? Those are, and it's hard to like know every single question, but you can search up some questions online and figure out some big picture stuff that you should know about.
That you could figure out together.
And then I think that, and I've been thinking about this recently, but having people who are married already that you can ask for advice from and just talk to throughout the course of your relationship is super helpful. I think a lot of times in dating, we feel like this problem that came up is unique to us. Because of the circumstances, because of them, because of us. But in general, it's not that unique. Like, couples fight about the same kinds of things. And it feels very isolating in the moment when you're going through conflict or rough patches or unknowns. But when you have an older couple who has been through what you are going through, they're just able to kind of anchor you a little bit and then give you some good advice and give you things to think about because they've gone through it too.
I think that's really good advice. Like, you know, just to have like it's like having a third person. It's also kind of somebody you can look up to and be like, oh, they're so healthy. They've got it all together. And like, they've also been through these same problems. Like, that means we can also get through these. It's almost like having like a relationship role model kind of. But yeah, I think that's like a very good idea.
Right. And the key to that is that actually no one is perfect. Like, yes, they might have it figured out, but to be honest, like, you figure out one problem, something else is going to come up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, couples who are in a healthy relationship or marriage, they figure it out not how to, like, master the problems, but how to approach it well together. And so I think that's, like, one big thing to learn. I think the last thing that comes to mind about making sure that you're set up well to date towards marriage is making sure that you have accountability. So a lot of times, like, it's easy to get carried away in relationships. And so the kind of like focus or goal of the relationship kind of gets lost. But if you tell people who are close to you, hey, this is what I want, these are boundaries that I have too, and they're checking in on you and saying, hey, how are things going? Are you guys respecting these boundaries?
Right.
Are you guys still working towards like something serious? And like getting help if you need it. That's gonna help you stay on track because it's easy to get distracted.
That's pretty solid advice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like throw this in there. I want to say I do think it's a very good idea to have another couple as like to look to for advice and things like that.
Yeah.
And to like check in on you. But I don't necessarily think it has to be like an older couple. It just I feel like has to be a couple that's like separated. Like, you know, it can't like separated from you and your partner. It's like it shouldn't be like one of your guys' parents.
Oh yeah.
You know, like maybe it can just be like a couple of like a coworker who's like a few years older, or like somebody who's younger but they've been in like a very long-term serious relationship. Just somebody who you can look up to who has a healthy relationship.
Yeah. And so you kind of have to know them a little better, and like it's best if you look up to them in some way. And sometimes that's hard to find.
It is, definitely.
But those are great points. Like, I would never, not never, but I think it's good advice not to like ask your parents and stuff. Yeah.
I would also never.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Maybe we can like make a small list of things, big questions that you should answer on your way towards marriage.
Okay.
And then we'll put it in the description or something.
I think that'd be so useful for people.
Yeah.
There's this like podcaster I watch and he talked about a similar list that he had his then girlfriend answer. Like him and her just kind of went through it together. And like he was like he knew like that was his wife.
Wow.
Like his mind was like he was so certain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I think sometimes maybe one of the last things I want to say is a lot of times when you're in the thick of it in a relationship, it's hard to check in on yourself and see how you're really feeling. And so maybe once in a while, take some time for yourself and reflect on how you're feeling about this relationship. Do you feel like your partner is treating you well, being thoughtful? And do you think you yourself are loving your partner well, being thoughtful?
True.
And that way, like, you can kind of make sure that you're not blindsided by anything. Because in the moment, like, maybe you're accommodating the other person a lot, but deep down, you don't want, like, for example, like your partner is like, after I graduate, I'm gonna move back home.
Right.
And you're like, oh, that's far away, I'm not gonna think about it. you should check in with yourself every once in a while and say, like, would I be okay with that? Does that actually make sense with my plans?
Right. Oh, true.
Where I am at school, my career, and ask yourself, am I okay with it? And if I'm not okay with it, this is a conversation that I'll bring up next time.
I'm glad you didn't say, like, oh, that means this isn't for you. It is a conversation. And, like, if there's stuff you're not okay with, you should feel comfortable, if you're dating with intention, to bring up those things.
Yeah.
And, like, have a conversation and, like, find a solution together.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of couples who have gone through a long period of dating, and it almost feels like it's taken them forever to get engaged and married. And do you think that's like a clear sign that they're not dating with intention? Or like, what are the, like, are they being blindsided by something?
I don't know if they're being blindsided. Maybe they're just missing that, like, you know, different people have different mentors and things that they look up to. So maybe other older siblings, cousins, members of the family have done things in a similar way where they've dated for just a very long time before they settle down. In other cultures, maybe, like, other people have people that they've seen that it seems to the, like, you know, to the general population that, like, wow, these guys, like, don't even know each other. They just met. Like, how are they getting married? So I feel like everybody has different norms that they're following. And I don't think either way is, like, a red flag or, like, something bad.
Yeah. One thing that I've seen in that I want to talk about briefly is that sometimes you're in a relationship for like 3 years, and then like your partner starts bringing up things kind of out of the blue, and like, oh, I would like us to live here one day, or like when we're married, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But then you're hearing that and you're like, but we haven't really talked about marriage, like, and you're bringing this up, like, tell me, like, actually, like, what you're thinking, or like, is this actually what you want, or are you just joking about it, or fake promising? Like, are you actually gonna give this to me?
And I think for this, Ethan, I'm gonna hit you back with some of your own advice, which is, like, you should talk about it. You know, if it's 3 years in and you, like, they're dropping these comments and you're like, wait, do you mean this seriously? Like, let's talk about it. Or if it's like maybe like a year in or a few months in and you're hearing these comments, like, maybe they are just a joke, but you should either way be like, wait, like, what are you saying? And like, just like try to talk about it, like try to like figure out what the person actually means by it.
I will say, because I do think this topic is really important, and I'm really trying to figure out good ways to make sure that things are being done intentionally, because a lot of times it's hard to date with intention.
It is.
Like, we recognize that. And the pitfalls of not making sure you know your person well is they can be abusive, and that will come out in a different way once you're married. And maybe they've been telling you that they really want something in life, and you've kind of just ignored it, and it finally comes up later when you're married, and there's disappointments because they actually don't want to have kids, and they really do want to move back home to a different country, and so those are things that you never want to be blindsided about. Some things that you can do to make sure about that is, do your close friends and family approve of them? And have they had good interactions with your close friends and your family? The people who are closest to you know you the best and are like you in certain ways. And so your partner should be able to get along with them.
That's true.
When it comes to abuse, though, in particular, abuse looks very different after you're married, and it can be very scary because it didn't look like that while you were dating. But in the short thing that you should always be looking for is, do they feel entitled about things? So are they used to people serving them, and are they treating people who are below them in like social status or economic status differently?
Okay.
Do they have certain expectations that people will do things for them, or that they will get some kind of credit when they do something good? And those are things that you can ask yourself just to like do a sanity check and make sure that you are evaluating your partner well, and not like to test them, but to make sure that your relationship has a good foundation. That's it. It's just, it's not to like.
And like Ethan's right, all these like tiny small things, like how are they treating like the wait staff? Like you don't think much of it in the moment, but these are the things that come out and like show, I think, like the deeper character that somebody has. Yeah. And like that's what would potentially cause problems in the future as your relationship grows and gets deeper. Yeah.
How do they react when they get frustrated? Are they shutting down all the time? How do they respond when you give them some constructive criticism? Do they take ownership for when they've messed up? And of course, like this, everyone needs to grow in these things, but are they making an effort?
Do you see signs, positive change?
Exactly. So Sania and I are not saying your partner needs to be perfect. But everyone should be like working on themselves and trending upwards.
True.
And we want all of you to find people who are really, really good for you and solid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with that, we're going to go see how cook Sania is.
That's right.
To see how many solid people have I talked to and how cooked have I become.
Yeah, let's see how well you know like the guy's mind, or the mind of a guy. Okay, so 3 different situations. I just need to know what a guy is going to do in these situations. Okay, so the first one, their girlfriend isn't texting them.
Okay, I had like a first initial thought for this one, but then I scratched it. And the answer that I'm going to give is they would get worried. I see boyfriends as like mini dads, you know? They're like, they want to make sure, they're like, boys are like, I think, creatures of like routine. And if they're used to texting at a certain time, if they're used to a certain thing, they feel a little shaken up if that is not happening.
Okay, and what did you scratch out? Well, like, what were you
scratched out like, they don't care and they continue to play their little video games.
So the answers that I'm gonna give are like for a lot of guys. It's not every single guy. They're gonna go back to play their video games and like watch their YouTube or like watch some TV.
First initial reaction was correct.
Yeah, and guys don't do it like as a personal like. It's not personal, but and I think guys will feel worry, but then they'll be really distracted. Guys get distracted easily. Yeah. Okay. Second scenario, they're playing sports and some girls come and watch.
I'm gonna say they're kind of not gonna notice. Or you're making a face. The answer that I scratched out was they're gonna play better.
Yeah.
But I feel like that answer is applicable to like girls come to watch or boys come to watch. Like if someone is watching, they will perform better.
Oh no. Like when a girl comes, they're playing as hard as they can.
Wow. Okay, and the scratched out answer again.
They won't necessarily perform well. But they're gonna try hard, and maybe they'll perform worse.
I see.
And so
more pressure on themselves.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a girl that you know super well. It doesn't have to be like someone that you're super attracted to, like
just anyone, any girl.
Yeah, like that, you know. Like if you know that girl, you're gonna try way harder.
Okay, fair enough. Wow, I am my scratched out answers.
Yeah, I might get flamed in the comments for taking these views, but okay, and then the last scenario, they're asked to go to a Korean spa, and there's gonna be other guys with no clothes.
Okay, again, I have like my scratched out answer and then they're opposite.
Oh, yeah?
I feel like they wouldn't care. They're just there to do their own thing and they're kind of like, boys are not as like intimidated or anything by nudity as like girls are. And guys just tend to be kind of confident in their bodies. Or like they just don't think about it that much.
And what about the girl? What was the scratch out answer?
The scratch out answer is I'm not going. Like they're gonna avoid it.
Oh, okay. So this one is probably 50-50.
Okay.
But I do think that like the slight majority would not care. Like I you're right. Like guys in general are much better with no clothes and nudity.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna think too much about it.
Ethan, I have a fun idea that next episode we take these, maybe adjust a little bit, and we hit you with the same questions.
For girls.
For girls.
Okay. No, I'm down for that. I would get it. 100%.
Ethan's saying he's cooked.
No, but I just know how girls think.
Clearly, I'm still working on. I'm aware of how boys think.
That's true. Yeah. You are good.
I came up with 2 answers. One was always right.
Yeah. Well, that's how you make sure that you just came up with opposites. And so it looked like you knew what you were doing. Okay. Well, you can stay tuned and look out for that. And we hope that this episode had some good advice for you. We'll catch you guys next time.